Hey guys, so as you probably know, it's been about 5 months since Mario Kart World released, and this is a video that I wish I never had to make. But as time goes on, I've found myself getting increasingly more frustrated with this game every time I play it, and at this point I really don't even pick it up too much anymore. So there is a lot of issues to talk about with this game. This game certainly is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and it never was. But since release, this game has even gotten farther away from being perfect than it was at launch, which is crazy to say the least. So for me to really explain to you why I don't play this game anymore, we kind of just gotta talk about what life is like. So I'm not a kid anymore that just has 6 hours a day after school every day to play video games. I've got a social life, I've got a girlfriend, I've got a job, I'm trying to build my career, and I've got other things going on in life. So the time I do have to spend on video games, I consider that to be valuable. That is valuable leisure time that I'm able to enjoy. And for about the first month of this game's release, this game was perfect. This game was everything I had ever wanted in a Mario Kart game. It was extremely technical, very fun to play online, very good tracks, very good VR system, just overall an amazing game to play online, and I absolutely loved this game for the first month that it released. But as time goes on, I've found more and more that this game just feels like a waste of time every time I play it, and I would just rather be doing something else every time I hop on this game. And so obviously the main reason why that is when Nintendo removed 3-lap tracks from online. In the 1.2.0 update, they removed the option to vote for 3-lap tracks, so now basically every time you play online, it's just intermission sections. But that is just scratching the surface of it, so if you were going to turn off the video now because you've heard already too many talks about the intermission sections, the problem is deeper than that. So of course the main problem is that these intermission sections are just simply not fun. We'll get all this out of the way first, and then I will dive into the actual bigger issues that this causes. So the general consensus amongst the community and pretty much every professional player is that these intermission sections are just simply not fun. They are straight lines, there is very little technical skill to it, very little item skill. You can win the majority of them just by bagging 2 relatively decent items like triple shrooms and a star, and then just using those at a decent section on the actual lap part of the track. And it's just the proportions of this are really not good. Most of these intermission sections are 3 minutes long, and then you'll spend less than 1 minute on the track. So it feels like you're eating a burger with 5 buns and 1 tiny slice of meat in the middle of it. That is just, Gordon Ramsay would laugh if he saw something like that. This is not the formula for a racing game. There's just no way to make the proportions of this correct when these intermission sections are just so long and you get 1 lap of the track, which is always so short. And if you look at some of the more ridiculous ones, like any of the intermission sections leading to Koopa Troopa Beach, those are just insane. You spend 3 or 4 minutes on some of these going through the wide open desert on a straight highway, leading to a 15-second lap of Koopa Troopa Beach. And the entirety of the race is determined upon that 15-second lap. Whether or not you smuggled up a star or another dodge in time, whether you mistimed the shock by 2 seconds, or whether you just got hit by a random boomerang or some other random item because there's 24 players going around such a small track. It's just not the Mario Kart that we knew. This is not the Mario Kart that we fell in love with. And since this is the only way to play the game online, the majority of pro players have left the worldwide community, and they don't play worldwides at all anymore. Most pro players, or any decent players for that matter, are sticking to private Discord lobbies or doing Mogi lounges or some other competitive format. And this is all because Nintendo took away the ability for us to choose 3-lap tracks in online worldwides. And so circling back to how this actually impacts a lifestyle where you don't have unlimited time to play video games, it makes it so I would rather prioritize playing other games like Rocket League, where there is multiple different game formats that you can choose from, and where you can instantly get matchmaked with people of your skill level, or Persona 5, where it's just a offline RPG where you are continually making progress in the game as you play it. This game, the more I play it and the more I spend my limited leisure time on this game, I get increasingly frustrated. Because of the fact that very few pro players ever play worldwides in this game anymore, it makes it very difficult to ever get into a decent worldwide lobby. This is a common thing that a lot of people have pointed out, about, and it seems like there is a problem with Nintendo's matchmaking system where they're not matchmaking high VR players with other high VR players, because I consistently get into rooms with low VR players in the 3000s and in the 5000s when I've consistently stayed in the high 8000s, like 8500 to 8900 through my entire time of playing this game. And this just creates a cycle. This whole thing of where Nintendo removed the tracks, which removed pro players, which removes even more pro players as they continue to play the game, this just creates a cycle that you can't get out of it. This is just what the game is at this point. And since you're playing with low VR players and people that don't understand these intermission sections and don't try to even vote random to potentially get a 3-lap track, you just play even more intermissions when you're playing this. And it feels like even more of a waste of time. And since there is very little skill in these intermission sections, especially when you're playing with like low VR people in the 3000s and then the 5000s, there's no reason to even try on these at all. There's no incentive. Whenever I play this game online, I find myself just putting on auto accelerate, and I'd rather just go on my phone and like watch a YouTube short or like text one of my friends or something while this intermission section is going on, and I can often still get a very good placement just by paying attention for the last lap of the track, or should I say the only lap of the track. And just as a completely separate issue from this, it seems like every time I join a race in a worldwide, they are almost always just starting the race, so I have to sit there and wait for the entire race. For some reason, they almost never put me in a race that is near the finish or like halfway through. And when I only have a couple hours each day to play video games, I don't want to sit here for the first 5 or 10 minutes of my session just waiting for a race to even start. So overall, just to simplify down everything of what I'm saying, I feel like this game is just a waste of time to play it in my leisure time. And since I do just play this game in my downtime, I can't predict exactly when I'm going to be able to come on every day. Like I might have work, I might have other obligations. So for me, playing a competitive format like Lounge or something like that where there is a set time you've got to play, that kind of stuff doesn't suit me as well. I've always been the type, ever since Mario Kart DS, I've been the type where I would just hop on the game whenever I would want to hop on it, and I would be able to get into a room with good players and have a really good time every time. That was most common a thing in the Mario Kart Wii era. I would just be able to come on this game any time of the day and get into rooms with people in the 9000 VR range and just have intense matches for hours and hours on end every single day. But I haven't had that experience in almost 3 or 4 months with this game, ever since Nintendo removed the ability to vote for tracks online. And what annoys me the most about this entire thing is this is such an easy fix. But we know Nintendo will never actually do it, because Nintendo will do anything to avoid listening to their fans, despite the fact that the entire Mario Kart community is memeing on them for this. They even had the Sonic Crossworlds community going after them for this. The entire video game industry, as a matter of fact, is pretty much going at Nintendo for what they're doing here, and yet they refuse to fix it. They're releasing these incremental updates which don't actually make any things better. If anything, it makes things worse, because it makes people hold off on having hope for this game, and it makes people even less likely to continue playing worldwides because they see that Nintendo's not fixing the issue, and they would rather either just rip the band-aid off entirely and get rid of the game, or just simply go to a different format where they can actually play the modes that they want to play. Just imagine if a game like Rocket League, for example, decided to randomly remove the standard 2v2 and 3v3 matches, and now the only mode you can play is Drop Shot. That's it. You have one mode that you can play, and this is standard across the entire game. There's no way to play the standard modes anymore. The entire gaming community would be up in flames if that happened. There is no way an update like that would ever get passed. But yet that same thing happened to Nintendo when they released the update that removed our ability to vote for tracks online. Of course, the entire community went up against them, and they doubled down on it. As a matter of fact, they tripled down by now, because they have released 2 updates since then, which don't actually affect the core issue. They're just releasing the smallest updates possible to try and positively improve the press around this game and the news articles that come out surrounding it, while not actually addressing the core racing experience of this game and the actual issues. Since they've released these updates, I have seen articles and I've seen videos and stuff of people saying Mario Kart World is saved, but those come from people that have not actually played the new update. So then a couple days later, once people realize that the game is not actually saved, they get even more disappointed. So this whole thing that Nintendo is doing is just creating a vicious, cannibalistic loop for themselves. They removed the ability to vote for tracks, which means pro players play less, which means matchmaking is worse, which means even more pro players are going to quit playing the game. Nintendo is literally eating themselves alive with how they are treating this game. And I am so passionate about this topic because I absolutely love this game. I love the physics of it and I love how it drives. And I actually just spend a lot more of my time watching like Mogi Lounges and competitive clan wars and stuff for this game, because those are actually a format where it is fun to watch them and I can get my fix of this game without having to deal with all these intermission sections and these terrible matchmaking systems and waiting 5 minutes just to even get into a lobby online. But honestly, at this point I'm just ranting, so let's move on to something else. So what should these intermission sections have been if they shouldn't have been the main worldwide experience? These should have been a Knockout Tour. And what's funny is that Knockout Tour is the one place where these intermission sections are actually not even featured much at all. There are 8 different races that you can do when you play Knockout Tour, and that is it. There is no changing of the paths, there's no like randomly generated paths or anything different. It is the same 8 tracks every time. So by the time you have played just a few Knockout Tours, you have seen everything that it has to offer. You've seen this section connect to that section, and then that section connect to another section, and you've seen the exact generated path for pretty much every Knockout Tour once you've played 8 of them. And this seems like a complete waste because this could have been the actual mode where Nintendo features these intermission sections in a good light, and people would have loved that. If it would have randomly generated a path every time you play online, there would be countless different permutations, different paths that could be made. I don't know what the exact number is, but I'm sure someone else could do the math for me. There would be so many, in the thousands of different path combinations that could be made. And the funny part, this is already in the game, and they could have just put it in there, but instead they decide to hard code 8 different paths that you can do. Especially in a game where there's supposed to be 200 plus different sections here, you're just seeing the same ones every time. So not only did they really miss with the standard worldwide options by forcing these sections upon everyone, they completely swung and missed in the Knockout Tour, which is the one place where these paths could have actually come in handy, and it would have actually been seen as a really good thing by the community. And what's even more frustrating is that both of these issues could be easily fixed if you just gave modders access to the game for 5 minutes, or if you just actually had one person higher up in Nintendo that decided to listen to their community. It is not hard to add another mode in the online. You could call it classic mode. Maybe 12 players where it has only 3-lap tracks, or even if you just want to keep the 24 players and just make it only 3-lap tracks. Just make a separate mode for track-based courses online. And then for Knockout Tour, make it so it's either completely randomly generated every time, or maybe allow the users in the room to vote on a start location or something like that. Just make it so you're not playing the exact same 8 courses every time you go on Knockout Tour. So yeah, I think this game actually has amazing physics, and I love the way that it drives, and this could be the best Mario Kart game of all time if they would just fix these simple things that they need to fix. But these simple things are such a detriment that it brings this game from being the best of all time to likely being the worst of all time. And this is coming from a Mario Kart Wii veteran that spent countless hours on Mario Kart Wii in professional worldwides, and I loved the physics of that game and the way it drove. I knew the way the kart interacted with every part of the track, every different shortcut. I was one with that game, and for me to say that Mario Kart World has the potential to be even better than that is saying a lot. That is a high compliment for this game. The physics and everything in here are super fun, but yet the fact that you don't even get to take advantage of them is what completely ruins the experience. And so like I was talking about before, the fact that there is no pro worldwide sessions anymore that go on means that it's a lot harder to actually take advantage of these like skills that you can do, like the rail grinding, different cuts, the wall rise, and all those types of things, because the race is just completely item spammy, because people that are not so skilled at the game don't know how to use items that benefit them. They just use it whenever they get it, or whenever they feel like it's a good time. They don't actually strategize strategize the way that pro players would. And again, that is the majority of worldwide sessions now, since there are no longer any pro sessions that go on online anymore. You're constantly just being bombarded with different items, being hit off by random stuff, the shock being used at random times. It doesn't feel like any of the actual driving mechanics are actually beneficial to this, because most of it just relies on getting a dodge or just waiting until lap 3 to get some good shrooms or something, because you can always just pass most of the room in these worldwide sessions by grabbing triple shrooms on like the first set of the final lap. So the driving in this game, despite how good it can be, it's not really rewarded in most cases. So I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about in this video. Of course, I could go a lot more in depth on all these points and talk about them more specifically, but I think for the purpose of this video, that kind of covers everything that I wanted to talk about. It's really sad that the game had to go out this way, and there's not really too much we can do at this point anymore besides keep praying that Nintendo makes changes to this game. It seems rather unlikely at this point, but the only thing we can do is hope. So yeah, that's going to be it from me for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more videos from me in the future, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.